Hey there, if you're just tuning in, we're going to get started in just a few minutes. We are giving it a few shares, and so we'd invite you to do the same and let people know you're watching with us. And if you are watching, say hello in the comments so we know who's here. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. We're sharing it a few more places. Hi, Jerry. And hi, Cynthia. All right, if you're just tuning in, let us know you're here. Say hello in the comments, and we are going to get started after one more share. All right. Well, it looks like we've got a few people tuned in. Hi, Kit. Kit just joined us. If you're watching, we'd love for you to share the stream to let people know that they should watch too. And certainly say hello. We can't see who's watching unless you say hello. So let us know you're here. If you are just watching for the first time, I'm Kim Baker, CEO at the Gallatin Chamber of Commerce. And we're so excited to have you here with us today. The Chamber exists to support, educate, and engage our members. And so we have been bringing you the C Show daily at 11 a.m. on our Facebook page to do just that. So today we're happy to have a very special guest, and we're not in the same place, but Ryan Baker, director of the Sumner County Museum, is joining us today. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So this is certainly a time where it seems like history is definitely in the making. Would you say that's kind of the truth?
Yeah, now more than ever that I've experienced.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the Sumner County Museum. I'm sure we've got some folks watching who didn't even know there was a museum in Sumner County. So tell us a little bit about the museum, and then also kind of what the museum's operations look like currently in the midst of the pandemic.
Right. So the Sumner County Museum was started in 1975 by a couple of local businessmen, John Garrett and James Robert Ramsey. And what I call the old museum is located behind Trousdale Place, which is just a couple blocks from Gallatin's downtown. And it opened in 1981. It's about 10,000 square foot of exhibit space, and we are packed full. A lot of history there, a lot of great artifacts and stories. We've also currently own 2 or 3 rather other properties just down East Main Street, right across from Captain D's, the old historic carriage house and historic stone wall, and also the old county garage. 2 of the 3 were built in the 1830s, the other one in the 1920s. Now, right now, our operations kind of, everything's kind of slow. We're kind of at a standstill, but we do have several projects that are in the works. One is just documenting COVID-19. We decided to start documenting this for a couple of different reasons. One, so that future researchers could have something to go off of, and also to be able to tell the story to future generations. I know everyone in the world has been impacted in some way, and we're just living in a unique time right now. A little bit more about that project, though. What we're looking for are stories on a local level, community level, city, county, even some on the state, country, and world level. But we're just really interested in hearing your story. How has COVID affected you? What's changed in your life? How are you coping with it? We're asking for people to submit either photographs or stories, and a story could be as short as a couple of sentences or as long as a few pages. So we've got a email address, which is covid@sumnercountymuseum.org, and we also have a Facebook group documenting COVID-19. And we're asking people just to submit those stories, pictures, so that we can compile that and at some point create an exhibit, but also have a digital archive for future research.
Tell us, I think that's really awesome, and I think that's great to have it captured on a local level. I know that we've had a photographer out in partnership with the city and the Economic Development Agency. I think we've shared some of those images with you. But what have been some of the other things that have come in so far?
Well, I think the one that sticks out to me the most was actually our first submission, and it came from an 8-year-old. His name was Miles, and I guess part of his homeschool project, he had to write a letter for his English class about how COVID had affected him. And the letter basically talked about how terrible life was, how he hated homeschooling, and he couldn't do anything with his friends. And, that was just the viewpoint from an 8-year-old. And then, we've had submissions from folks who were helping to feed the front lines, the healthcare workers, to how people are doing takeout and supporting local businesses, just a whole lot of different things.
Awesome. I think we'll probably see some more come in too. I know we've seen some really amazing things from our businesses and how they've shifted their models and what it looks like inside their facilities versus what it did before. And even this week, we're seeing some of that. I know I stepped into a couple dining rooms of restaurants that opened on Monday, and it kind of looked sad at first, just because some of them had even gone as far as to remove half of the tables to limit that occupancy. So I think this is definitely worth documenting, and I appreciate the museum doing that. What about the museum right now? Is the museum closed? Is it open? What are the plans?
So right now the museum is closed. We're kind of waiting to get go ahead from the state officials to reopen and then see exactly what that's going to look like. But we are planning for that. So as far as the museum usually opens the first weekend in April, the first Saturday, and so we have not yet opened this year. But when we do open, we do have a plan in place. And what will probably happen first is we'll just be open probably 2 days a week, and we will actually take reservations for small groups, probably going to be groups under 10, that can reserve the museum for an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, and come in and get a guided tour. And then they would finish with a project where they would make their own time capsule. And that's going to be related to the COVID-19. And so we'll be asking kids to interview their parents to interview the kids, and we'll document that. And give them copies to take home, and then they can build their own time capsule to open, later on to look back on this. But it'll also help us with our project that we're doing.
That sounds really awesome. And I think for parents, that sounds like a great way to finish history lessons for the rest of the year, right? A little bit of homeschooling offsite. How is the museum funded?
So the museum is self-funded for the most part. Myself and our board of directors have several fundraisers throughout the year to help with our operations. We do receive some funding from the city and other smaller organizations, some grant funding and things like that.
And then as far as admission to the museum, and then I also believe the museum has membership for citizens in the community.
We do offer memberships at different levels. That's on our website, sumnercountymuseum.org. You can actually join the Museum Association through the website now. Everything's set up online for that. And then we'll keep in touch and let people know about different happenings throughout the year, which, right now those happenings are not happening. So I know we're ready to get back to that. And we had a lot planned for this year, some new events we were going to roll out. And right now we're just kind of playing the wait and see game if we're going to be able to do those or not.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit more about the other properties, Stonewall and the Carriage House. Kind of what's going on over there? Are those open? Obviously, they're not open right now, but are they normally open to the public for tours or bookings? What does that look like?
So historic Stonewall, which was former residence of John Garrett, we do offer tours there by appointment. We don't have someone regularly staffed there, but it's also available for small events like bridal showers, teas, birthday parties, reunions, things like that, which, that as well right now we're either postponing or asking folks to reschedule those events for later in the summer. And hopefully those will get to take place. We're just, kind of in limbo right now. We do also have some museum events there as well. I know we do an Appalachian dinner around Christmas. We have a VIP party with the cemetery tour actors in October, which our cemetery tour is our biggest fundraiser. First Saturday in October, we portray 9 to 10 people that are buried there in the historic city cemetery. So hoping that event gets to take place. And if so, it might look a little different this year. We might have to make some adjustments for that. But so you mentioned the historic Carriage House. Right now, it is not usable. The board of directors and myself, we were kind of in the middle of this strategic plan for how we were going to utilize all of these properties. And right now, that's kind of on pause as well. We were hoping to be able to roll out everything in May or June. And now it's looking like we're going to have to back that up a little bit. Not sure what the timeline looks like exactly, but the idea for the Carriage House is to use it as a culture and arts center. So you could see some things happening like, possible partnerships with some of the local arts councils. And I think that's, the arts are probably underserved in the, at least Gallatin community, if not Sumner County. So that's one idea for that. And then the old county garage building, which is behind the Carriage House, it was built in the 1920s. And right now we have a distiller looking at opening Sumner County's first distillery legally since Prohibition. And, a lot of people might think, well, how does that fall in line with the museum's mission? And well, the idea there is to use old distilling methods to make whiskey. And it would also serve as a living history exhibit. So people would be able to come, do tours, learn about these old methods, and also do tastings on site there. So it would kind of serve as a staple for the tourism component of the museum to draw more folks to the area, but also would have the history component as well. And, we would really tie into what Prohibition was like here, in Sumner County in the 20s. I know there were a lot of moonshine stills and things out, in the hollers and some of the rural parts of Sumner County. If you don't know what a holler is just kind of the low point between two hills off back in the woods. So kind of excited about that. Hope it works out, and think it would be an asset for the museum and the community.
Would that get Gallatin on the Tennessee Whiskey Trail?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. And if you don't know what the Tennessee Whiskey Trail is, you certainly need to look that up. It's basically a tourism draw to the state of Tennessee that involves the distillers across the state, and you could go on the tour. And just like you've been able to do in Kentucky with bourbon, now you can do it in Tennessee with whiskey. And so it's a huge part of our culture and our industry here in Tennessee. If you're watching, April Barker chimed in. She said, such a fun idea. We think so too. The name of that distillery, you might have already said it, but Old Sumner.
Yep, Old Sumner.
And he's actually got his own fundraising efforts too, to kind of get himself off the ground and try to pick up a lot of the funding along the way. He rolled out some really cool glasses this week. I saw that. He's got a picture of them in front of the shop out there, the garage. If you are watching and you have comments or questions for Ryan or myself, we'd be happy to take those. So drop them in the comments before we get wrapped up here in a few minutes. You talked a little bit about the cemetery tour. For those who haven't been before, I think it's one of the best events in Gallatin. It's definitely one of the longest running events in Gallatin. And we had Mary Garkey with Parks and Rec last week on, and she talked about that being one of our parks, in the cemetery being one of the parks here in the Gallatin community. And a lot of people don't realize that. You don't think about a cemetery as a park, but it certainly is. And ours is very beautiful and historic. Tell us a little bit about that, the significance of that cemetery, as well as what the tour looks like a little bit more for those who haven't been on it.
So the cemetery itself is over 200 years old. I think the first known burial was in 1818. So it is a very special place. It's one of the few with a Mexican War monument. One of the few in the United States. I think there may be 4 or 5 of those. There's also a rich history tied to the Civil War and some other things, but the cemetery tour, this will actually be the 24th annual tour. So it's been going on for a while. We have just an amazing group of folks that come out every year to support that. I think, we have over 1,000 people each year come out to take the tour. And this year we haven't made an official announcement yet, but this one will be related to women's suffrage. And I know we're excited about that. And usually there's about 10 people that we portray. If you've never been, it's really good. We've had people, I know I started tracking where different folks were coming from. And we had a lady a few years ago who flew in from Washington, D.C. just to come and take that tour. So great tour. We're looking forward to doing it again this year. Again, it's the first Saturday in October. It might look a little different this year. We might actually be selling tickets based on different time slots. So, usually everybody wants to show up right at dusk. It is a candlelit path with luminaries. It's usually about 3/4 of a mile long with 10 stops along the way. And it's just a really unique way to learn about local history here in Sumner County.
Awesome. And it's extremely well done. I, of course, have been several times, but I think everybody should go at least once. And I bet you'll go back, and it's great for the whole family. Before we get to wrap up, is there anything else you think, would be worth sharing about just general information about the museum and your operations during this time?
I say it a lot, but one of our biggest assets at the museum are our volunteers. Right now, I'm the only paid employee at the museum, so we really are being able to operate throughout the year due to a great pool of folks that come out and help us out, and that can range anywhere from helping with events to working at the front desk, answering the phone, taking messages, We have a few folks that like to actually lead some of the tours there. So anybody that's interested in volunteering in any ways, feel free. My email's at the bottom of the screen. Shoot me an email. Let me know you're interested, and we can, sit down and talk about some more of the opportunities there. And we've got a lot planned, so we hope that we're able to launch some of these events this year. But if not, it might be next year. But really excited about the future, and just really positioning ourselves as a community asset here in Sumner County and Gallatin.
Awesome. And because I know somebody will probably ask, what about student volunteers, high schoolers or college students, or maybe somebody looking for community service hours? Are those?
So if you're 17 or under, you do have to be accompanied by an adult. We have the rule of 2, so there have to be 2 adults present. So if I'm the only one at the museum, and I'm kind of in and out, so under 18, we ask that a parent or another adult come with them. If they're over 18, absolutely, we love to have them.
Awesome. Tell me, just a fun question, what is your favorite thing in the museum? I don't know that I've ever even asked you that.
So there's a couple. Probably the most favorite artifact would be there's a long rifle in a case in there that belonged to John Baker, who would have been, I think, my 5th great-grandfather, and a foxhorn that would have been, I think, my 7th great, which I did not know existed until I started working at the museum. And I'll have to give a shout out to Kenneth Thompson. He's our county historian, and who's became a good friend of mine. And when I started there, he brought me right over and said, I need to show you something. He said, I know all about your family history. And he knows all about everyone's family history here in Sumner County. Great guy. But yeah, that would probably be my favorite. And then Gallatin's first stoplight is at the museum. And it's red light and a green light. It's missing the caution symbol, and it has a bell on the bottom that would ring. So it was located right there at the intersection of Water and Main Street, right by the courthouse. And so every time the light would change, this really loud bell would ring. And it's really unique. It also has a bullet hole in one of the casings that covers the light. And the story that I was told, that someone robbed one of the stores on the square, and the sheriff fired a warning shot in the air, and he hit the stoplight. But I imagine it probably was short-lived, because I can imagine being a business owner on the square and hearing this bell sound off about probably every 45 seconds to a minute. So
I was thinking while you were saying that, I'm so glad it's not there right now. I would hear it all the time.
Right, you would.
Kind of a fun question we've been asking everybody, or maybe not a fun question, and I know your answer, but I think it's helpful for everybody else to understand how different organizations and different individuals are navigating what we're considering a new norm. What does your new norm look like? And, what are you doing to kind of stay in routine and just kind of feel normal right now?
Yeah, well, to feel normal, I like to get out and fish. I think I've gone fishing more this year than last year at all, but that's on a personal level. But, related to business, we're doing all of our committee meetings, board meetings, all of that being via Zoom, trying to stay connected, keeping that line of communication going. And one thing I didn't mention, on Wednesdays, which is today, so at 4:00, we'll be doing a walkthrough Wednesday at the museum. I'm just picking one exhibit every week, doing a live video, going in and, being able to talk about some of those artifacts and, some of the stories behind those. Since, people can't come to the museum right now, I'm kind of, trying to take that, put it out there. So that's what I'm doing. And then just, working from home and a little bit at the office. So.
Yeah. And I want to know, as your wife, what did you do with our child to keep her occupied for 25 minutes?
She's upstairs in Hayden's playroom watching Peppa Pig with a bowl full of cheese sticks, grapes, peanut butter crackers, and orange juice.
There you go. So
haven't heard her yet, so that might be I don't know if I need to be worried or thankful.
Probably fine. Awesome. Well, we so appreciate you coming on today. We appreciate everything the museum is doing, has done, and the way you guys work so hard to preserve our rich history here in Sumner County. So thank you for all of that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, we'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. We'll have Dr. Jerry Faulkner, the president of Volunteer State Community College, joining us, giving us an update on what college looks like in the times of COVID. So we'll see you tomorrow live on the Chamber's Facebook page at 11. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.